Good afternoon, everyone. This is attorney Veronica McClendon. I am the CEO and managing attorney of McClendon Law and Consulting, located in Macon, Georgia. I am coming on to talk to you all today about 5 things that your family can do if you own heirs property before you even hire an attorney. And I know it sounds crazy to have an attorney tell you that they don't even want you to hire them until you do certain things. Well, I'm saying this because I have worked with many clients and had many things happen where if the family had done these things before they talked with me, we could have saved them some time, some money, some headache. And so I want to share these things with you. I also want to give you the caveat, though, that there are some of the things on here that you might not want to do if you are not clear on how the history, if you're not clear on the history of your family's property. For example, if you just heard that you probably own some property, but you don't really know if it's in your family or not, you might want to talk with an attorney first so that they can help you to determine whether or not you actually have this property in your family in the first place. And also, you might want to talk with an attorney first if you are in an adversarial situation with your family. Like if you know that talking to your family in advance is going to cause some problems, or someone may try to run to the courthouse before you do, or hire an attorney before you do, then you may want to talk to an attorney first so that we can help you to measure any potential conflicts and just get a sense of how to proceed in a way that protects your interest. But if you are not in one of those situations and you already are aware of your family's property, you have a clear understanding of how the property has passed from one generation to the next. And if you are working with your family already, y'all already are kind of like trying to address the situation together, then these are 5 things that you might want to go ahead and do before you even talk with an attorney so that your conversation with your attorney will be more productive. So, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have a very good family tree in place. You want to start identifying the potential owners of the property. Now, this list is not something that I think you should create and then use as your Bible and say, this is the list of the owners of the property. You want to work with an attorney before you can actually confirm that. But as far as putting the list together, that's something that you can go ahead and do so that you can start getting a sense of who all owns an interest in this property. What we want to look at is 2 different angles of ownership. One is the record title owner, the people that when you go to the courthouse and look up the land records for your property, you are going to determine who owns the property based on what's in the land records. Now, it's possible, excuse me, that person may be deceased, or those people may be deceased. Excuse me, it's possible that they may be deceased. It's possible that there may have been other things that have happened that affected whether or not they still own the property. But it can be helpful to look at the land records to find out who owns the property. Typically, this is something that a title abstractor who either works for an attorney or works in partnership with an attorney would do for you. So if you don't have this information, I'm not saying that you need to go out and get it. But what I'm saying is that you have the record title owners, which is how the outside world is going to see the ownership of the property. Then you have the actual title owners. This is the part that you will be working on. These are the people who are the living heirs and descendants of the original record title owners. So, for example, you may have a deed to your great grandmother's property, and it shows where she purchased the property from someone else, or perhaps someone in her family left the property to her. You have a deed, you have a will, you have something to show how this person in your family ended up owning the property. You want to start with them and then trace a family tree forward. So you're going to look at whether or not that family member was married at the time of their death. You want to get a record of their name, when they died, where they died, to the extent that you can. Then you want to identify each of that original owner's children. So that family member whose name is listed on the deed as the grantee, or whose name is listed as a beneficiary in a will that was probated, or some other document, or perhaps even a court order that says that this person owned the property. Whatever document you have to show that your ancestor owned this property or possibly owned a partial interest in the property, you want to trace forward from that name to the living heirs. So, like I said, their surviving spouse, their children. If the children are deceased, you want to look at grandchildren and also the spouses of any deceased children, and just keep going until you get to living heirs. Once you reach the living heirs, you don't have to look at who their children are and who their spouses are. You can stop once you get to the living heirs. So you've identified the people in your family who likely own an interest in the property. The thing is that I want y'all to do is not to leave anybody off. If you feel like there's a family member who is listed who should not be listed on as part of the ownership of the property, as one of the owners, then I want you to still list their name and you make a note as to why you think they should not be included. But you don't want to omit that person before talking to your attorney, because they might tell you that Georgia law actually requires that you include that person. Now, and I say Georgia law because I'm in Georgia. If you're in another state, it depends on whatever your state law is. So I want to say this is something that anybody from any state can use this information. However, you want to make sure that whatever way that you determine who is entitled to the property and who isn't is in line with state law. So your job as the family is to create as thorough of a family tree as possible, identify any potential heirs and descendants, see if you can collect dates of death, if you can collect find out where people died, and then put that information together so that when you do meet with an attorney, they're not having to do that search and you already have it available. And like I said again, if you feel like somebody should not be included, I don't want you to make that decision for your attorney. I want you to go ahead and list that person as a part owner and make a note as to why you think they should not be included. So after you have your good family tree built out that helps you to identify the potential owners of the property, let me add this one thing as well. You may want to involve a genealogist or someone who can help you to do some family tree research to help you build out that family tree if you need help with that. Or you can go on ancestry.com, familysearch.org, I believe is the website. There may be other genealogical research websites that you can consult to help you to create your family tree. But you also want to look at family Bibles, look at obituaries. Those can be very helpful. Death certificates from your family members to see if you can build out that family tree. So for real this time, once you have your family tree built out, the next thing I encourage you to do is to establish a family steering committee. So these are people who are going to help you to do the work, who are going to be foot soldiers for you to help you do research, help you identify potential family tree information, help you get contact information for your loved ones, and also run to the courthouse. Sometimes you might need that as well. So establish a family steering committee. I encourage people to look at the natural family lines, the branches of the family. So you have granddaddy who had 5 children. If you can get a representative of each of those 5 branches to help you to do this project, is going to help take the load off of you. And also those individuals will probably be more closely aligned to their branches. So like, for example, you have, let's say your great grandfather, he had 5 children. Each of those 5 children have their own 5 children, have their own children. And so one person from each of those branches is more likely to be connected to the other people in their branch than perhaps you might be if you are in a different branch. So it can be helpful to have a representative from each of those branches present so that they can collect information from those who are closer to them and also communicate information back and forth to those different branches. Third thing you want to do, and perhaps this should have been number 1, you want to make sure that you get the property taxes under control. We actually had a call today where someone called and said, our property is going up for tax sale in 2 weeks. Can you help us? And at this point, the only thing I could tell you is to pay the taxes and try to figure it out later, because there's nothing really that we can do legally to stop a tax sale. It's going to be pay the taxes or see if you can work something out with the tax assessor. So we want to make sure that taxes are kept up, and then you can figure out how you need to get reimbursed later if this property is that important to you. If the property is not so important that you're willing to risk the possibility of not being reimbursed for money you pay on taxes, then you have to make that decision yourself. But if this property is important to you, you want to make sure that those taxes get paid. You want to make sure that the tax office has someone in your family as a point of contact who is living. There are many situations where families are having tax notices going to the family house and nobody has lived there in years. And so sometimes someone picks up the tax bill, sometimes they don't. But you want to make sure that whoever is listed as the point of contact on the tax bill is someone that is going to make sure those taxes get paid. Either they need to pay out of pocket or work with the other family members to see if y'all can come together to pay the taxes. But whoever pays the taxes, make sure that you keep good records, because you don't want it to be later that you paid thousands of dollars in taxes and now there's nothing to document that you actually paid your share of the taxes. So I would encourage you to, if you can, make payments directly to the tax office and ask them to give you a receipt with your name on it. And then keep a record as a family or whoever's paying the taxes, keep a spreadsheet to show who paid taxes when, how much did they pay, what date did they pay it, so that when it comes time later on to settle the accounts and figure out maybe who may have paid more than others, you'll have that record. So if you have the information now, great. If not, I want you to start collecting it now. As taxes are being paid, document who's paying them and make sure that you don't let those taxes fall behind, because the longer they're behind, the more penalties that you're going to have to pay, the more late fees you're paying, and then your property is at risk of being sold at a tax sale. I also encourage you to look at whether or not your family may be eligible for any property tax exemptions. Here in Georgia, we have a range of exemptions, especially for property that is in agricultural uses and used for conservation purposes. Sometimes you can go ahead and apply for those, even if you're still waiting to get your heirs property cleared up. You need to check with your local tax office to see what their requirements are and see if you can take advantage of some of those tax exemptions so that you're not paying as much on the property taxes. But whatever you do, I encourage you to work with your family to create a strategy to get those taxes paid. Make sure that they remain paid so that you don't fall behind and don't run the risk of the property going up for a tax sale. The fourth thing that I encourage you to do is really get an understanding of your property's boundaries, the value of your property, the characteristics. So this might involve you hiring certain experts to help you understand your property. I am talking probably more so toward people who own property in rural communities, which means that you might have a larger piece of land and there might be different things that you can do, like farming, that you could grow timber on it, or perhaps you could do some agritourism activities on your property. You want to get someone who understands the type of land that you have and have them help you create a plan for how you would use that land, because that can sometimes get people on board where they know, okay, this person's asking me to help pay taxes, they're asking me to help with this project they're doing to clear up the heirs property, but what am I going to get out of it? If you can go ahead and start researching opportunities on how you can use your land now, you can share that with your family and hopefully get them more excited about what they can do with the land and what you can do as a family. So I encourage you to, perhaps hire a surveyor to help you to map out the boundary lines of your property. If there has not been a survey done within the past 20 to 30 years, you may want to get a new survey done. You may want to find out what's the value of the property. Perhaps hire a property appraiser, or at least look at the tax office so that you can get a sense of how much the property is worth. And then hire someone who is a land consultant who can help you walk the property and understand, how can this property be used? Is this wetlands? What can I do on wetlands? What can I do in this timber tract? What ways can we generate income with the property that we have? If you contact your local USDA office, the United States Department of Agriculture, they may have someone who can come out for you. If you have forest land, you can contact the Georgia Forestry Commission. If you're in Georgia, if you're in another state, check with your local forestry government agency and see what resources they may have. You may also want to talk to your local extension agent. A lot of times they have someone who can come and help you walk your land and understand what's going on with it. And finally, local universities. If you have a land grant institution in your community, you might contact them to see if they have someone who can come out and help you to understand your land and understand how you can use it. And the fifth thing that I would want you to do is related to what we just talked about. Establish goals and outline a plan. This is not going to be set in stone, but I want y'all to start as a family talking through what things can we do with this family land? What do we want to accomplish? How much money do we need to have in order to get this done? So you might want to start creating a budget for paying for legal fees, paying for a surveyor to come out, paying for a land consultant to come out, agriculture consultant to come out, hire a forestry consultant, outline of what your timelines would be. How soon do we want to contact an attorney? When do we want to start looking at these opportunities? Look at conferences that might be of interest to you to see if you can learn more about ways that you can maximize your family property. There might be conferences in your community or even in other places where you can learn what you can do with heirs property. So I would encourage you to create some goals and allow those goals to drive your approach. Make sure that you're not just going out there, I got family land and I want to clear it up, and you don't really know why you want to do it. Establish some goals and allow those goals to drive the way that you handle this process. So that's all I had today for my 5 things. And I really appreciate you all for tuning in. We'll share some other tips later. Let me know in the comments if there are other topics along the lines of heirs property, estate planning, farmer business stuff. Can't even think today, but anything to do with those topics that might be of interest to you, put in the comments to let me know so that I can do a video that you can learn from in the future. Also, I would love if you would subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone that you think might benefit from it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day, and I look forward to talking with you the next time. Take care.